That's him?
Yeah, don't.
Yeah. Staging it?
Yeah.
Acting like we're working
PR.
out? Yeah.
JJ, what can you tell us about Austin Nola?
Well, one, it was a target for us really earlier in the off season because the track record and knowing how important the catching depth is. I mean, what we went through last year was tough, but to get somebody that has that much experience behind the plate it's a bonus for us. And obviously, we didn't get him first time around, but second time around, we were able to get him. So it just makes us feel better organizationally that we're protected the way we need to be protected.
What does it mean for Freddie Fermin? Does Nola come in and compete for that backup spot?
I think what Freddie did last year speaks for itself. Very confident in Freddie's abilities, and I would expect he'll break with the club, but there's a chance we could break with three catchers. I don't want to say that there's not competition because there is, but also having catchers that have options really helps us throughout the entire season. So. We're really happy with Freddie. Freddie's just starting what should be a good career for him.
How quickly did this all come together? I know Nola was released yesterday, and then you guys took them right in.
Well, we were on top of it because Milwaukee, was reported to have signed Sanchez, and knowing that Nola was a non-roster invite, we were on top of it. There's nothing you can really do until it happens, and then once he got released yesterday, his agents were reaching out to a bunch of teams, and we had already made the decision that if that happened, he was available, we would add him to the 40-man.
And any concerns with his eye, that situation that he had last year, and what was the medical looking like? Yeah,
no, medicals are fine. It's concerning more from a mental standpoint than anything, but the reports we had indicated that he was over that, and gotten through that, I'll say mental strain, toughness, whatever it is, to get back in the batter's box. So we're confident he's fine.
I was curious about the major league deal. Stop. Yeah, wind's coming. The major league. I mean, he obviously got the minor league deal with the Brewers. And was it just because you guys were able to have that 40-man spot open?
So we had a spot available. Number one, and you get to this part of the season, it's a little bit easier to manage the 40. When you're in the off season, you're trying to save as many 40-man spots as you can. But once pitchers and catchers report, we knew we had two spots that were going to be available, so it became a little bit more attractive. But also the fact that he's got an option makes it even more attractive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get those veteran players that are without options, and they may take an NRI, but then you got to create a spot to get them on, and then you lose them when they come off. This situation is pretty safe that we'll have them all year.
And through 2 years, right? I mean, 2025.
Yeah.
I got another one.
Right.
When you look at Nola, I asked you this question. I asked you too. How important was it to have someone that has familiarity with Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha?
I think it's just more comforting that he's been with them, and of course we spoke to them about about them throwing to him, so we found out a little bit more about his catching, receiving skills, what he's like in the clubhouse. I think it's more of a bonus than anything. Even if they weren't here, he still would have been actually, when we were trying to first sign him, they weren't here yet, so we were trying to get him anyway.
As Cactus League opens today, what do you look for over spring training, and how much does performance matter when you're looking at building the roster?
I think he goes in different phases. I mean, early on here, people are just getting their feet wet. First innings, first at bats. You can't weigh a whole lot into that. But once we get to like March 10th and we're closing in on the last 2 weeks, then I think performance starts to matter a little bit more. I think right now you just look for any, really, I hate to say this, but any like red flags, like a velocity's down, a movement profile's different, something like that, where we got to jump on it pretty quickly, or at least ask the questions. That's more of what the first couple weeks are about. But then the performance and the competition is going to, steadily become more important to us.
How have you felt over the first 10 days or so without games?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's a pleasant camp. Nothing's really, knock on wood, nothing's really gone wrong. You can feel a little different type of energy in the clubhouse. Very businesslike. So it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
The only slight concern we have right now is Carlos. Just trying to get him going, but everything seems to be moving in the right direction. The fact that he's a reliever We could take our time. If it was a starter, it'd be more concerning. But with him being in the bullpen, I think we'll be able to get the innings he needs to be ready to start the season.
Yeah, how delayed is he?
I'd have to be honest. I'd have to check when he's first throwing his first side. But the answer I got yesterday was he should get 6 to 7 outings by the end. So he's got to be close to getting up and having a side and then getting into a live BP before he goes in the game.
Mm-hmm.
As you start to shape the bullpen, is there thoughts about one of those spots being someone that is a bit more of a swing man than a long man?
I think early in the year, we always need to start the year with somebody who can go 2 or 3 innings, just because somebody throws 90 pitches here. That's really kind of the equivalent of 75 to 80 in a real game. So the middle of the bullpen is important early on. Otherwise, you're just going to use every guy every day. So if somebody can go 2 to 3 innings, pick up the end of the 5th, the 6th to get us into the 7th, it's going to help us overall. We also don't have we only have one off day. Usually you get 2 in that first week. You get off Friday, then Monday. This year it's Friday, and then again not till the following Monday. So I think it's 9 games in a row that we'll play. So managing that bullpen is going to be pretty important, and having a couple guys who can go 2 innings will probably help us get through that little stretch.
How much was part of the bullpen evaluation difficult just because the guys weren't in the spots? They were more strained, throwing more frequently than you wanted them to last year?
Yeah. And being very candid, we didn't throw enough strikes. So who do you go to? Who was the most reliable guys? And if you look at where we started the year last year and where we ended, it was very different.
Yeah.
But it was really just the reliability. And I think that's early meetings in the off season, that was pretty apparent talking to Q and Brian, where they felt jammed up. And it was guys that had big arms, but we weren't commanding the zone well enough. You need to have some reliability out there, and then mix in some guys that are a little more risk-reward types with the big arms that may not throw as many strikes, but you can protect them a little bit more. But when you have 3 or 4, it's hard to protect them. Somebody's got to pitch, So I think from a confidence standpoint, we're starting off in a better place this year because of the strike throwing ability of the guys we've added.
What do you like about some of the second-year guys that are back in Major League camp again this year, like Tyler Gentry, Tyler Tober, and guys of that nature?
Well, they should be more relaxed. Totally handled it great last year. I mean, he played great in spring training. He was kind of a human highlight reel out there with some of the catches he was making in the outfield and base running, but hit a few homers, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But the second time around, they know what to expect. It's not new to them. So walking into that major league clubhouse the first time is not as intimidating. Knowing where to go, who to speak to. They may seem like small things, but they're big things when you're just trying to worry about baseball. So that should make this camp a lot easier for them.
Where do you see them kind of fitting in with the club moving forward in their future as they continue to matriculate?
Yeah, I mean, they're both different types of players. Those two in particular, 2 different types of players. I mean, Gentry, it's going to be a lot of bat. How much, is he swinging the bat well? And, he swung the bat extremely well last year in the second half of the year, which was nice to see. And I think it's a sign of maturity. When a guy has a tough first half and they can panic, he didn't panic and he played really well, but it's going to be more offensive oriented and offensive evaluation. With Tolley, it's just he's multi-dimensional. It's a speed element to it, there's a defensive element to it. He's really improved with the bat, so it's a different type of player. So I think either one of those guys, and we'd be foolish to think that we're not going to need them at some point this year. But we need them to just do what they need to do right now in the minor leagues, and then be ready whenever their time comes.
Thank you.
How do you view the outfield competition as we get into the Cactus League play?
Yeah, I think there's some guys clearly that are going to be on the team. I think I can't see where we wouldn't go with at least 5 outfielders. So trying to figure out who that 5th outfielder is going to be. I think hopefully we leave here healthy. And then it is a competition, and we have to make a tough decision. For whatever reason, we're not 100% healthy. We have the depth to cover for it now, but I think it's more that 5th outfielder spot that we're looking at. Really happy with Luis Velasquez swinging the bats. MJ, we have a lot of belief in what he can do offensively, and I think now with Vinny being back and Renfro in the lineup, it takes a little bit of pressure off of MJ, and hopefully he can just settle in. Izzy with his defense in center field is really valued, and of course Hunter's the veteran guy, and then you get the Blanco, who did great things for us last year, and he's really good coming off the bench. And Drew, being a switch hitter, gives you that versatility that you like to have. So, and he can play center, so there's a lot of things to like about all of them. It's just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And the other thing that's different right now is Frazier can go out to the outfield, Hampson can go to the outfield. So, I think we can actually put our bench together that gives us the most balance that we can put it together the way we want to, with balance. So it's just a matter of who's who.
Can Blanco play center too?
Yeah, he can. His speed, he's one of those guys, his jumps and routes are okay, but his speed makes up for a lot of it. And he's fearless, so that you can put him in any position. He plays it probably the same way he did when he was 10. It's just he plays the game like a kid. He just has fun. So there's no fear of putting him out there. It's just a lot of space. So that bad jump, bad read could cost you a step, but he tends to catch up with him anyway.
And then how does having Hampson, who you said can go to the outfield, but also be a speed guy off the bench if he's not playing, how does that kind of fit into what you think about your outfield and that fifth guy?
So if we feel good enough that Garrett's able to steal bases, come off the bench and steal bases, that last spot might end up being a bat. We'll go with a bat. We may look at, once we start knowing the rotations of the Twins, what their rotation's going to look like, what the Orioles' rotation's going to look like. You might match up, from a handedness standpoint. Bullpen. They got a ton of lefties, ton of righties. We want a left-handed bat off the bench, or versatility like Drew could offer. So I think they're the types of things. When we get to March 15th, 16th, and who's injured, who's not injured on your opponents, we can start planning, finishing out the roster the way we want to, at least to start the season. Because you try to do what you can to get off to a good start on the year. But it's not always about just who are the best 26. Some of it may just be matchup related. And then at some point you may have to option somebody out and get somebody else in.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I know you mentioned that there could be a possibility to carry 3 catchers. Is it like that last fight would just be mix and match with whatever specific team you're playing against?
Could be. The danger in it is when you option them out, you lose them for quite a bit of time. So when you option somebody out because you're trying to match up, you still got to project on, all right, how's this going to look 7 days from now, because we don't have them back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors, but that's certainly part of it. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.